I am glad.
Alrighty everybody, welcome back to the channel. We got a lot of news to go over with the patch that went through. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Consider rating and subscribing if you did. But without further ado, let's just dive on in. So it looks like Ubisoft is going to buff offense significantly on the testing grounds. If you didn't know, testing grounds is available on all platforms, and this is where the dev team puts out balance changes that can potentially come into the future patches. So feel free to go ahead and try it out yourselves. Also, note that they do have surveys you can fill out afterwards, so please utilize those. They're very important. It's very important to voice your opinions on these matters. So currently, in a live iteration of the game, being offensive with lights and heavies puts you at a huge risk and disadvantage of losing stamina, getting parried, and pretty much losing all your health. So what the devs have decided to do is to take away all the stamina penalties you get when your attacks get blocked and parried. Now this is huge, and this is the biggest part of the patch, to be honest. It's huge for players who enjoy being aggressive or just plain throwing out raw top raider heavies like myself. Adding this will improve the quality of games, and I think this will help the player base and the community by a large margin. So we won't be out of stamina for half the game when we're fighting against bash heavy heroes like Blackbriar or Jormungandr. So as you can see here on the video provided by Ubisoft, buffering an attack means you press it right after with no delay. Delaying the attack was what high level players would do to have a higher chance of landing the attack. It hides the indicator to an extent. The new iteration will hide the first 100 ms of the animation that you perform. Here is Jean explaining it so you can understand it a little bit better. He's one of the devs. There's also a link down below if you wish to see more information about it and get into the nitty and gritty.
So the idea is that we have buffered and we have delayed. So delayed is what we're talking about as well, where you have that you can hit your attacks a little bit later. So the thing is, like here, it's for me anyway, it's really hard to see. Like I don't know about you, but I have a hard time like noticing the difference between them.
Oh yeah, no, the slowed down version helps a lot.
That's it. So this is we have buffered, delayed, and new tech, right? So what we can see here is that when we have buffered and delayed, there's like a 66 millisecond difference. So if you look at them side by side, you really see like the red indicator coming before on buffered, and then it comes later on delayed, right? So that's what we have on live right now. Our new tech that's on the testing grounds, what it does is it hides the first 100 milliseconds of every single action you perform that requires a button input. So what happens in this case is that second light that Orochi is throwing, you only see 300 milliseconds of it. But there's no distinction between buffered or delayed. Is whether you're comfortable with it, whether you hit it a little bit later or whatever, it's always going to show, always 300 milliseconds. Okay. We chose that number 100 for a lot of reasons, but what is interesting here is that at this speed, it should be unreactable for like the vast majority of people.
So you heard what John had to say, and the gist of it is that you're trying to get rid of the delayed inputs that high-level players use. The buffered inputs will now become slightly more viable when it comes to chain lights and landing the attacks. Here in this clip, Stefan and Jean explains the 100 ms hidden startup, and it's very important for you to understand this mechanic so you know how to use it in-game, so go ahead and watch it. There will also be more information down in the description below.
But basically what happens is, right now, like on the testing grounds, when player 1 hits a button, there's that little input delay portion, and then player 1 starts to see their attack right away, right? Your opponent can get the network input that I press the button at any point in the next 100 milliseconds, which is good enough for like most connections, and the attack is always going to start at the exact same time.
Okay.
Which is different than live.
Than live.
On live right now, you see on player 2's view, that kind of like diagonal hashed section, they may receive the input at any point here on live. If it's buffered, it'll probably be at the beginning.
Yeah.
If it's delayed, it'll be at the end. Yeah. So that portion of the attack right now on normal live games is inconsistent. Sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you won't see it, sometimes you'll see part of it, sometimes not part. You never quite know.
Yeah.
What we were saying with the testing grounds here is like consistent all the time at this time.
Every single time, it's always going to be at the same time. Because you could have said, like you were saying, you could have gotten it at any point in there, and as soon as I would have received the input from my opponent, the attack would start right there and then.
And what's crazy is it means your attack is less good.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. The better your connection, the worse your attacks are.
Right.
Which is
assuming you're buffering.
Yeah, exactly. Assuming you're buffering. Yes, exactly. With this, it doesn't matter. They're
Okay.
always delayed, so because they're always delayed, they're always good.
So the devs have stated that they wanted to improve offense, and this is what they had to say. We feel the game is currently too skewed towards defense. At all skill levels, attacks are too easily blocked or parried. The effects of this are especially noticeable when you face a strong opponent who can react to all your openers. Very true. We want to move the game towards read-based defense instead of reaction-based defense to ensure your attacks land more. The skills required for defense shifted from reactive to predictive, since your defense against some of the faster attacks, 400 MS attacks, you used to react will now need to be anticipated, which is a read. We also want you to attack more often and mix up your attacks more, so we've made changes to attack damage, stamina penalties, and attack recoveries to help in this regard. Now this is all very important information, and I think for the future For Honor they're going to make a lot of attacks more based on reads, and to an extent we'll have to see how this feels, but that's going to be interesting. Games like Mortal Kombat or Dragon Ball Z Fighter, there's a lot of reaction based moves and prediction moves, and so incorporating more variable times and more offense in general with For Honor is gonna help the game out, I believe. So we'll need to see what else they plan to add to For Honor. Moving on to the next changes, we have feint and believability. Feints will now act like they are delayed feints, which are more believable. It will make it much harder for your opponent to react now because they're going to be delayed on the opponent's screen. Before, players would feint at the last second possible, but now it'll always look like it's delayed to the last frame possible to the opponent, from what I understand. Stamina changes are probably one of the biggest changes here. On the live version, if you threw a light attack and it got parried, you'd most likely lose all your stamina, and therefore forcing you to turtle up. Heroes that had bashes that could drain your stamina would have a huge advantage on you, and you were forced to play defensively and hold at least half your stamina, so you have to just wait for your stamina regen while they bashed you, or just use their mix-up. And right there in that aspect, that helps the game improve significantly. Now that Ubisoft has decided to promote and buff offense, you can throw your attacks out without losing any stamina, making the risk much lower. Now, I know that for console players, the light spam is real, and a lot of players can react to it, but hopefully having stamina for both heroes and being able to throw out attacks will even the playing field. Hopefully, you guys will have to let me know it down, the console players in the comments below. The next huge change is damage nerfs across all boards. Everything has either been normalized or reduced when it comes to damage. Not every attack will be reduced properly though, as there may be a few things that devs have missed, such as Lawbringers Impale, which was nerfed a couple patches ago to 5, it used to be 10, but on the testing grounds it is now 8, so that's a slight buff for Lawbringer. It's intentional, I'm sure, but be sure to write in the surveys the bugs and the weird things and the number values that don't fit into the game, so the devs know about it and they can change it and adjust it accordingly. And so, as you know, there are quite a few 400 MS neutral light attacks, and so the devs had decided to change those to 500 MS, such as Lawbringer's Top Light, Shaolin's Top Light, and Orochi's Top Light Opener, which is like 466, I believe. And so they're standardizing that to 500 MS. So it's going to be a little bit slower on your side, but it'll still look fairly fast on the opponent's side. So that change is going to be a little bit controversial, since you won't be able to interrupt people anymore on their certain mix-ups. And so we'll have to see how that goes. Peacekeeper's zone attack, however, is still 400 MS, so it still is a very viable option select and an interrupt tool. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of stamina, but still a very strong 400 MS attack. Overall, I think this is an interesting change, and I would love to get more games in to see how the game quality feels. Right now, it feels like a little bit of a turtle fest and a lot of bashes, so I would love for more parries and more heavy attacks and more light attacks to be thrown at my face. I know many players have different opinions about these damage nerfs, but we'll have to wait and see. I personally like killing people, not killing, sorry. I personally like winning in like 3 heavies or like 4 heavies, because it's really cool to finish your opponent really quickly, but I also understand the aspect that we need to give players more chances to have a comeback, and I love the comeback potential that many players can do. So overall, a good change, and I would love to see what will happen in the future with it. And the last 2 things were them fixing recoveries on heroes. Here's John explaining it to you right now.
Generally, it means that light attacks have slightly longer recoveries on hit and on block, and heavy finishers have shorter recoveries on hit and on block. So that means that there's this whole like frame advantage thing going on. We won't go too much into it because it's like rather complex, but the idea is that you should be more rewarded for using heavy attacks, especially heavy finishers, because then you keep your momentum, you can keep attacking. Whereas if you try to use lights too much, what happens is your opponent gets the advantage when you end up with your chin with your light or whatever.
So adjusting the zone inputs for those who suffered with that's going to be a little bit better. It'll feel a little bit better and have more consistency. We'll have to test that out. I tried it a little bit, and to be honest, I've never had issues with that. It'll probably happen maybe once in a blue moon, since my finger dexterity, my middle finger, my index finger were quite very good. Quite very good. Alright, so that's basically all the important patch notes that were discussed today on the dev stream. Let me know down in the comments below, because there's a lot of things that we have to discuss, honestly. You know, these buffered attacks, the new tech that we're gonna get, 300 MS that's visible, damage nerfs across all boards are gonna take a little bit longer to kill people. It's gonna prolong the fights, but I don't think it's gonna be too much of a difference since people will be more aggressive. That means attacks will land more, and you're gonna have more stamina, and that's really important for the longevity of this game. Having no stamina in this game is just, it's not fun. It's an unfun mechanic, and the way that some heroes can just bash you to death and hold your stamina still is very unnerving, and it's very tilting. So this is gonna be good in the stamina department, but damage nerfs, it's something that's could be debated upon. So let me know down below, and have a good day, everybody. Take care.
Round